7 things you'll never hear from a truly wise senior. As we grow older, our words carry more weight than ever. Intelligent seniors speak with wisdom, kindness, and intention. They know that what they say can shape not only how others see them, but how they see themselves. Here are 7 phrases a wise senior will never say, and why avoiding them leads to a more fulfilling life. 1. At my age, I'm useless. This is one of the most heartbreaking things an older adult can believe, and yet it's far too common. The thought may not always be spoken out loud, but it shows up in how someone moves, how they isolate themselves, or how they stop trying. The phrase, "I'm useless," doesn't just reflect sadness. It actively erodes a person's sense of value. And over time, that belief becomes a heavy burden no one should have to carry. But here's the truth. Your age does not determine your worth. Wisdom, experience, and perspective are incredibly powerful, and they're gifts that younger generations desperately need. Sometimes we just need a reminder that contribution doesn't have to look the same as it once did. Take Tom, for example, a retired auto mechanic in his late 70s. After he stopped working, he felt like the world no longer needed him. The days blurred together, and he often sat in silence, watching life move on without him. His hands, once calloused and confident, stayed idle. He'd mutter, "I'm just taking up space now." But one day a neighborhood teen knocked on his door. His bike was broken, and someone had told him Mr. Tom used to fix things. Tom hesitated but agreed to take a look. In that moment, something shifted. As he tightened bolts and adjusted gears, the spark returned. The teen asked questions. Tom explained. 1 hour turned into 2. And by the end of it, the boy rode off smiling. Word spread, and soon other kids started coming by. Tom wasn't just fixing bikes, he was mentoring, teaching, laughing again. Today, Tom runs a small weekly workshop out of his garage. It's not about money, it's about purpose. And it all began with one simple moment that reminded him, you are never useless, unless you stop showing up. Growing older may change how we contribute, but it never eliminates our ability to matter. The moment we stop believing in our worth is the moment we need connection the most. And like Tom, that connection may be just one knock away. 2. Back in my day we did things right. It might seem like a harmless comment, maybe even a bit nostalgic. But for many younger people, hearing this phrase feels like criticism. It suggests that today's world is broken, that their way of doing things doesn't measure up, and that the past was always better. Instead of bridging generations, this kind of statement builds a quiet wall between them. Helen, 74, knows this all too well. A retired schoolteacher and proud grandmother of 4, she often found herself frustrated by how different things were today. Social media, slang, and the way her grandkids dressed or talked, it all felt foreign. In casual moments, she'd say things like, "We didn't act like that when I was your age," or, "Kids used to have more respect." At first, she thought she was just sharing wisdom, but slowly, she noticed her grandchildren pulling away. Conversations became shorter. Visits felt more like obligations than joyful moments. One day, her youngest grandson Ethan quietly said, "Grandma, you never like anything we do." That hit her hard. Helen spent some time reflecting. Was she really being unkind? She never meant to be. But she realized that her comments, even if well-intentioned, made her grandchildren feel judged instead of loved. That night, she decided to try something new. She began asking open questions instead of making statements. "Tell me more about that game you're into. What's that app you were talking about? Why do you like that kind of music?" And then most importantly, she listened. Something beautiful happened. Her grandkids began sharing more. They laughed together. They showed her their world with excitement, and she found herself genuinely enjoying it. Helen didn't lose her values. She just let go of the need to compare generations. She discovered that connection is more powerful than correction, and that being curious is far better than being right. Now she doesn't say "back in my day." She says, "Tell me about yours." 3. I can't learn anything new anymore. This simple sentence may sound harmless, but it's one of the most damaging beliefs a person can carry into old age. When a senior says, "I can't learn anything new anymore," they're not just expressing a moment of frustration. They're quietly closing the door to possibility, purpose, and growth. Take George, for example. He's 82 years old, retired, and living on his own after his wife passed a few years ago. For a long time, he spent his days flipping channels or rereading the same newspaper. He often told his daughter, "My learning days are behind me." Then one day, while helping her clean the attic, he stumbled across a dusty box filled with old family tapes, birthdays, holidays, even a clip of his late wife singing at their 25th anniversary. When he saw his grandkids' eyes light up while watching those memories, something shifted in him. That night, he asked his daughter how to transfer the tapes onto a computer. A few YouTube tutorials later, and with some very patient coaching from his 14-year-old grandson, George was learning how to edit video. Slowly but surely, he began creating digital family movies, complete with music, titles, and transitions. "I never thought I'd be doing something like this at my age," George said with a grin. "But it keeps my mind sharp, and my heart full." What started as a way to preserve memories became a new passion. Now, every time his family gathers, they look forward to Grandpa George's latest movie. His hobby has not only given him joy and mental stimulation, it's brought his family even closer. The truth is, the brain never stops being able to learn. The real barrier is believing it's too late. But the moment you push past that mindset, even just a little, you open the door to discovery, connection, and renewed purpose. So the next time you hear someone say, "I can't learn anything new," remind them of George and the power of trying something new, even when it feels a little scary. 4. It doesn't matter how I live now. At first glance, this statement might sound like quiet acceptance. But behind these words often lie deeper emotions, unspoken grief, chronic fatigue, or a creeping sense of resignation. For many older adults, especially those who've lost a spouse, battled illness, or felt increasingly overlooked by society, it can feel like their best years are behind them. And when that feeling settles in, it's easy to let go of routines, stop caring about health, and slowly drift into isolation. But here's the truth. How you live today still matters immensely. Your body still hears every word you say to it, and your spirit responds to every act of care you offer. Small changes in how you treat yourself can have a ripple effect on your mood, energy, and outlook. Take Ray, for example. At 79, Ray had stopped going out. He spent most of his days in his recliner watching TV saying, "Why bother? I'm just getting old." His daughter noticed the light had gone out of his eyes. She gently suggested one small change. A 15-minute walk in the morning, just around the block. At first he resisted. "It won't make a difference," he muttered. But she persisted, and one morning he said yes. That walk turned into a routine. Soon neighbors began greeting him. He started to notice the trees, the birds, the sunlight. His breathing improved. His sleep got better. Most importantly, Ray felt alive again. He didn't start climbing mountains or training for marathons. He simply walked, every morning, and that changed everything. Your life still matters. You still matter. Whether you're 65 or 95, the choices you make today shape the quality of your days ahead. So instead of saying, "It doesn't matter how I live now," try asking, "What's one small thing I can do today that would make me feel better?" Then do it. Not for the sake of anyone else, but because you are worth it. 5. Nobody really cares. These 4 words sound simple, but they carry a deep and heavy sadness. For many older adults, especially those who have experienced loss, loneliness, or fading roles in their family or community, this phrase becomes a quiet belief, one that slowly isolates them from the very people who would care. If only they knew. Linda, a 78-year-old widow from Ohio, used to repeat this phrase to herself often. After her husband passed away, the house felt too quiet. Her phone stopped ringing. Her adult children were busy with work and raising their own families. Friends she once met for coffee had either moved away or passed on. "Nobody really cares," she'd whisper while staring out the window, watching the seasons change alone. She stopped attending church for a while. She skipped social events. When people asked how she was doing, she'd smile politely and say, "I'm fine." But inside, she felt forgotten, like her existence didn't matter anymore. One Sunday morning, after weeks of struggling just to get out of bed, Linda forced herself to go back to church. During the small group meeting afterward, someone asked how she was holding up. She hesitated, then spoke the truth. Some days it feels like nobody really cares that I'm still here. The room went quiet. Then something surprising happened. People reached out. One woman walked over and took Linda's hand. Another offered to have her over for tea. A man nearby said, "I lost my wife too. I know that feeling." There were hugs. There were tears. But more than anything, there was connection. That moment changed something in Linda. Not everything, not overnight, but enough. Enough to remind her that people do care. They just didn't know how she truly felt until she opened up. The truth is, saying nobody cares often reflects deep pain, not reality. When we dare to speak honestly, when we risk being vulnerable, we often find that others are just waiting for the chance to show up for us. You are never as alone as you think. 6. I'm old, whatever works is fine. This seemingly harmless phrase often hides something deeper, a quiet surrender. Many older adults say this out of politeness, or to avoid being a burden. But over time, this mindset can lead to serious consequences, because when you stop expressing your true preferences and needs, others stop noticing them too. Take Barbara, for example. She's 74, gentle, soft-spoken, and always puts others first. Whenever her children or caregivers asked her what she wanted, for dinner, for a trip to the doctor, or even what TV show to watch, she'd simply say, "Whatever works is fine." It seemed like a kind, easygoing response. But over time, Barbara's silence became costly. One day, at a family dinner, she ate a dish with ingredients she was mildly allergic to. She didn't want to make a fuss, so she ate it anyway. That night, she ended up in the hospital with a severe reaction that could have been avoided. That moment was a wake-up call, not just for Barbara, but for her whole family. She realized that by always saying, "I'm fine," she'd unintentionally trained others to stop asking what she really needed. Her family, thinking she didn't care, stopped digging deeper. But inside, Barbara had needs, opinions, and limits. She'd just forgotten how to voice them. Since then, Barbara has made a change. She now takes a moment before answering, and she's learned to say things like, "Actually, I'd prefer something lighter tonight. I'd feel more comfortable if we left a little earlier. I'm allergic to that. Can we swap it for something else?" And something beautiful happened. People listened. They adjusted, respected her boundaries, and even thanked her for being honest. The truth is, speaking up isn't selfish. It's self-respect. Wise seniors like Barbara learned that your voice doesn't fade with age. It becomes more important. When you express your needs, you invite others to truly care for you in meaningful ways. So don't shrink back. Don't silence yourself. Your comfort matters. Your voice matters. You matter. 7. It's too late for me to change. It's one of the most limiting beliefs anyone, especially older adults, can hold. At first glance, it sounds harmless or even practical. But beneath the surface, this mindset quietly shuts the door to healing, growth, and meaningful connection. Take Frank, 76, for example. For over 30 years, he had a distant, often strained relationship with his son Daniel. Their disagreements started small. Different worldviews, miscommunications, a few hurtful words left unresolved. But over time, the silence between them grew wider than either one knew how to cross. Frank often told himself, "It's too late. What's the point? He's probably moved on with his life." That sentence became a shield, protecting him from the fear of rejection, but also keeping him trapped in regret. Then one night, after watching an old family video, Frank sat in the quiet of his kitchen and felt a deep ache in his chest. The laughter in that video felt like it belonged to another life. And for the first time, he allowed himself to ask, "What if it's not too late?" The next day, with trembling hands, Frank wrote a letter. It wasn't perfect, just honest. He admitted his mistakes, expressed his love, and said he missed his son. He mailed it without expecting a reply. A week later, his phone rang. It was Daniel. The conversation was cautious, emotional, and raw, but it was real. It was a beginning. Today, they're not best friends, but they talk once a week. They even met for lunch last month. It didn't fix everything overnight, Frank admits, but it opened the door. And that was enough. Change doesn't demand perfection. It simply asks for courage. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, "It's too late for me to change," remember Frank. Remember that growth doesn't come with an expiration date. Because as long as you're still here, it's not too late. Final thoughts. As we grow older, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking we've reached the end of our growth. But truly wise seniors don't let age define their mindset. They embrace life with hope, live intentionally, and remain open to both connection and change. Remember, every day is still yours to shape, to grow, to love, and to keep learning. You're never too old to evolve. If you found value in today's video, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, and let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and share it with someone who could use a little extra inspiration. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, so you never miss out on more insights to help you live with wisdom, strength, and grace. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.